The semifinals are now complete at the 2020 World Junior Championships. In today's video, we're going to recap what happened in the semifinals and set up the preview for the gold medal and bronze medal games. We'll get into that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, the World Junior Championships are almost ready to draw to a close here. We have the final two games ready to go for tomorrow, the gold medal game and the bronze medal game. But first, let's tell you what happened during today's semifinal matchups and recap what took place here. The first semifinal of the game saw Team Sweden doing battle with Team Russia. Now, of course, Team Sweden's had an immaculate record of 52 consecutive round-robin game victories heading into the playoff rounds of this tournament. They unfortunately do not have much in the way of gold medals to show for that. They only have one gold medal during that span. They've come up short many times between the quarterfinal, semis, and several gold medal games as well. So Sweden went into this game doing battle with Russia, and starting in net for the Russians was young 17-year-old goaltender Askarov, who actually had a really shaky start. The Swedes got off to an early lead, but the Russians did continue to battle back. The Swedish goaltender really wasn't having a strong first period either, and it was a 3-2 score after one period of play. After that, both goaltenders did kind of settle down and keep the score at bay, but heading into the third period, that's when things really got interesting. After Team Sweden took a 4-3 lead in the third period, Team Russia had seen enough of young goaltender Askarov and took him out of the game, swapped their goaltender, and that seemed to be the turning point of the game. After that, Team Russia started to play better and had a huge goal a few minutes later to tie the game up. So at the end of 60 minutes of play, we had a 4-4 tie, and this one had to go into overtime to be decided. For 3-on-3 for 10 minutes is how they play. This round of overtime should have been necessary, followed by a shootout, and it wasn't going to make it past the 10-minute mark. They had some pretty good end-to-end action. Russia would take this one in overtime with a huge goal from Morozov, going down, beating Sandin one-on-one, and got past him and put the puck in the net for the big victory. Sweden kind of got caught there, a little bit of a late change, but either way, those guys were tired. We really don't fault Sandin a whole lot. He had a great game for the Swedes, scored a couple of goals, really overall had a terrific tournament. His work on defense certainly could improve, I suppose, but a lot of young defenders are really in the same boat. But on the offensive side of the game, as far as moving the puck and being strong on the puck, being on power play, passing, as overall I thought Sandin had a really solid tournament and was one of the better defensemen in the entire tournament for sure. But Team Russia goes on to play for gold, and Team Sweden will once again be shut out of a gold medal and will battle for the bronze medal. Now, the other semifinal matchup we saw was Team Canada doing battle with Team Finland. Now, heading into this game, I really thought we'd have a fairly low-scoring, tight-checking game. Of course, the Finns have had terrific goaltending, really strong defensive team overall. Of course, their last game against the Americans was a tight 1-0 shutout victory over the U.S. So I expected something relatively similar. I did not expect a ton of goals here, but Team Canada comes away with a 5-0 shutout victory, and the game really got away from the Finns rather early on. Team Canada went up 2-0 within the first couple of minutes of the first period. Team Finland tried to call their timeout and get things settled down, but that did not work. Right 40 seconds after the timeout, Team Canada strikes again, going up 3-0, and of course they later added a couple of more, and Hofer in the Canada net got the shutout for a big 5-0 shutout victory over the Finns. Alexis Lafreniere had a huge game for Canada with 2 goals, certainly was a dynamic player and dominated at times, but the bigger storyline for Team Canada might be the fact that their captain, Barrett Hayton, was injured in the third period, and it's unclear right now because we really haven't had any medical updates if he's going to be available for tomorrow's gold medal game or not. He and Finnish captain Lassi Thompson got tied up, and he went into the end boards rather awkwardly. It looked like he kind of made most of the contact with his forearm and elbow area, but it's really unclear exactly what the injury could be. He was holding his forearm area and kind of the elbow area on his arm as he went off the ice, went down the tunnel, and did not return, and there was no update from head coach Dale Hunter afterwards. It was a little bit too soon to go from there. So I'm not really quite clear if he's going to be available. If he's not, it's going to be a big blow for Canada because Barrett Hayton has been one of the best players in this tournament. He's been right up there and amongst the scoring leaders, has been a catalyst for driving a lot of the strong play with Alexis Lafreniere and Nolan Foote. That top line for Canada has been extremely solid and a big part of their success here over the last number of games. Ever since they lost against the Russians, they've been rolling pretty solidly here. So I guess we will wait to see if Barrett Hayton will be available for the game or not. Now, the other thing that happened today, which really didn't impact today's game but could impact tomorrow's game, is a defenseman, Bowen Byram, ended up not playing. He was supposed to play, went out for warm-ups, and then came down with a bit of a flu bug and was sick, and therefore they pulled him out of the game. They're hoping it's just like a 24-hour flu bug, and that by tomorrow he'll be ready to go. But I guess, again, another question mark on Canada's blue line. That created more of an opportunity for defenseman Jamie Drysdale to play, who was basically on the team as a seventh defenseman, but he filled in admirably, had a great game, scored a goal. So certainly Canada has a pretty deep roster, so they're not, in tough too bad, but losing two players like that for the gold medal game certainly would be a big blow. And we'll see if those guys are able to go for tomorrow or not. So that pits our gold medal game as a rematch of Canada versus Russia, and our bronze medal matchup will be Sweden versus Finland. Of course, both of these games show a history of a rivalry between the two teams facing off. Canada and Russia have done battle in the hockey world at various age levels numerous times. There's lots of history there. Tremendous rivalry. Same thing with Sweden and Finland as well, doing battle for bronze. So we should have some very interesting matchups. Going to be interesting to see the bronze medal game. Of course, both those teams, Sweden and Finland, were both heavily favored coming into this tournament as being a pretty strong competitor. A lot of people thought the Finns might not do as well as last year where they won the gold medal because they were certainly missing some key players who ended up staying in the NHL. And they also had a couple of injuries right off the bat, including Anton Lundell, who was hurt before the tournament started. Then they lost probably their top forward in Rasmus Kupari in the first game of the tournament as well. So they're certainly dinged up that way, which has played a role in their results here. And on the Swedish side, after another heartbreaking overtime loss against the Russians, can they bounce back and get their act together here to go home with a medal here and possibly beat Finland? They had a very close game during the round robin where Sweden did win that game in overtime, so I certainly do expect another very tightly contested matchup. The other potential question mark here as well is that during that Sweden-Russia game, Höglander was kicked out for a high hit early on, and I wonder if he could possibly be facing any other supplemental discipline from the IIHF. I haven't seen any further updates from that, so I'm not sure if he could be facing a suspension or not. But as you know, most of the headshots that resulted in game misconducts have often resulted here in supplemental discipline. So I guess we'll have to see, because Höglander is certainly one of their top players and one of their biggest offensive threats. So if he's not going to be in the lineup to take on the Finns, that's certainly going to impact Sweden's chances of walking away here with the medal. Now, of course, in the gold medal game, Canada's going to be looking for some redemption here after being embarrassed by the Russians in their worst loss of this tournament ever in the history of it. They lost 6-0 early on. It's their second game of the tournament after coming off a big victory over the U.S. to start the tournament. As much as Team Russia played a really solid game in a 6-0 win, Team Canada also really had everything go wrong. They certainly played poorly, and it was as much their poor play that led to the result. So I do think Team Canada appears to be a very different team now. Ever since that game, they've gone on an incredible run. They've been outscoring their opponents at a great rate, and they certainly have their confidence back and are ready to look for some redemption against Team Russia. Of course, in that Russian game as well, when Alexis Lafreniere was hurt, and they also had Joe Veleno get kicked out as well. So they were, certainly playing without two of their top players for an extended time in the game. A lot of question marks around Lafreniere, but clearly he's back. He's playing, he's dominating, and he's certainly going to be a big force in that game against the Russians in the gold medal matchup. The other thing as well, it's often been said at this tournament that it's really, really difficult to beat the same opponent on two different occasions in the same tournament. So we'll see if Russia is up to the task or if Team Canada can bounce back and take home the gold medal. So let me know what your predictions are, your thoughts on who's going to win gold, who's going to win the bronze medal game, who's going home with all these medals. I'd love to know what your thoughts are. Leave me your thoughts and predictions down in the comments below and we can discuss further. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future content, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it as well. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.